Hey everyone, Andy Raffel from eTeknix.com, and today sees the launch of the 5600 XT from AMD, and well, frankly, I wonder why I even bother sometimes. Let's do this. The Virtuoso RGB Wireless SE headset from Corsair. With a sleek premium lightweight design, comfortable memory foam ear cups and subtle RGB lighting, it doesn't look like your typical gaming headset. With a detachable broadcast grade microphone, patented slipstream wireless technology and tuned 50mm neodymium premium drivers, it's simply the best headset Corsair have ever created. Find out more by clicking the link in the description below. So, 5600 XT, we all kind of knew that it was coming. It's something to bridge that gap between the 5500 XT and the 5700. Obviously, 5700 series as a whole is more aimed at your kind of 1440p gaming, and the 5500 XP dipped its toes into 1080p gaming, which, when you look at things like the Steam survey, you will see it's basically the most common resolution out there for people playing games. Think, you know, the games that people are playing, like Fortnite. I know, I don't want to admit it either, but a lot of people are playing Fortnite, CSGO, Apex Legends. These are all fast-paced games that 1080p is literally going to just really enjoy, and I guess that's where the 5600 XT comes in. Now, obviously, with this being a launch, you are going to see a variety of different cards. And I said at the beginning of this, I wonder why sometimes I even bother, so I'm going to put a little caveat on that. The main reason why is NVIDIA have recently price dropped the 2060. Now, what that means was, by price dropping it before this card even came out, AMD had a choice. And that choice would have either been price drop this before it even launched, which that's a really hard thing to do, because all you're really doing is actually cheapening the product a little bit. And I can understand why AMD didn't want to go down that route. So instead, they thought that they'd annoy the whole kind of review community. And what they've said is, based on ongoing testing with our board partners, we have raised the GPU core and memory frequencies for overclocked Radeon RX 5600 XT SKUs to take advantage of increased thermal and electrical headroom built into partners' custom designs. The updated VBIOS has been made available to our board partners for inclusion in select OC SKUs at launch. AMD is dedicated to disrupting the market with industry-leading compute products. And the new VBIOS makes the Radeon RX 5600 XT an even more powerful contender for high-performance 1080p gaming. Previously announced product specs are unchanged as they remain AMD's recommended reference design specs. So I wanted to get that out of the way purely because, well, it's, you know, frustrating as hell for reviewers, because especially if we've spent a day and a half testing everything and then we get told, really sorry, but any chance you could maybe retest? Well, no. It takes time to test, then film, then edit, then render, then upload, and then wait for YouTube to do its kind of magical processing, which sometimes takes no time at all. Other times, well, it takes a bloody long time to do. So, yeah. I wanted to get that out of the way before we even went through anything. Now, specs-wise, obviously you're going to see various different specs, and I don't even know if I can really go through the specs on this card, but I'm going to try to. When I tested it, the boost clock speed on this was 1620 MHz. The memory clock was clocked at 1500 MHz. Looking at the reviewer's guide that Asus have actually sent me for this specific model, which is an OC model, it looks like the boost clock has actually gone from 1620 up to 1640 MHz, but it does seem like the memory might actually be unchanged. But again, no one's really given me any information. I'm in kind of the dark as much as you guys. All I do know is that if they are increasing the speeds on the core clock and maybe even the memory clock, the only real winner here, and I say this, I swear, in every single video, is going to be you guys, the consumer, because what you're going to find is that all of the figures you're going to see from me today are going to be ever so slightly different, because they're actually going to be better. So keep that in mind. Whatever figures you see today, in theory, the figures that you guys are going to get on this kind of specific SKU are going to be better. So without further ado, let's run them glorious benchmarks. So with performance out of the way, we can all kind of see where it lies, and I guess there's nothing really out of the ordinary, and I feel like I say this every time that kind of AMD or NVIDIA launch a product, because we're now in a point in the market where AMD are back in the game, and that means that they're actually manufacturing products that are aimed to take on X card from NVIDIA, Y card from NVIDIA, Z card from NVIDIA, and this was specifically made to take on the RTX 2060. So nothing really out of the ordinary there. Now, when it comes to overclocking, this is a bit of a sore subject as well, because I have actually mentioned in previous GPU reviews that I actually think, and even with CPUs these days, I think overclocking is a little bit of a dead art. The fact that there are so many boost technologies now within graphics cards from both Team Red and Team Green, there's no real need to overclock because the card does such a good job at boosting that you're not really gaining anything in terms of overclocking for what you get in return. By overclocking, you're going to be increasing the thermal limits on the card. You're going to be increasing temperatures, you're going to be increasing noise, and all that kind of stuff. And I guess in a roundabout way, you may be decreasing the longevity of the actual card itself. But what you'll find is, if you just leave it to kind of boost on its own, then it knows what to do and when to do it. So if it finds that it's maybe getting a little bit too hot, the fans ramp up until it comes down to the temperature, I guess, levels and limits that AMD and their AIB partners such as Asus have actually put into place, and then it will start ramping up again with the boost clock speed, and it will kind of downclock itself and overclock itself when it needs to do so. But with that in mind, we still did actually want to see how far we could push it. And again, this created some controversy as well, because AMD have actually enforced limits. And we saw this on the 5500 series and the 5700 series, where you could only actually take the memory so far. So what we were actually able to do was take the GPU clock from 1620 MHz up to 1820 MHz. So a 200 MHz speed increase. And obviously we will show you exactly how this kind of fares in terms of our testing and what kind of performance increases we actually saw. In terms of the memory, we were able to clock that from 1500 MHz up to 1860 MHz. So again, a nice little increase. Every time we actually tried taking that a little bit further, it would just go whoop, and go straight back to the point where that limit has kind of been put into place. So let's see exactly how that, I guess, that overclock relates to real world performance in both 3D Mark as well as Ghost Recon Wildlands. So with all the performance out of the way, I wanted to try and get that over and done with, I guess, as quickly as possible before I really talked about kind of Asus and what they've got here, because I haven't actually touched on what they've done as an AIB, but Asus have done a lot with this card specifically. So it is their tough gaming card, it is an overclock card, so it has got pre-factory overclocks, but the problem is I don't want to compare them pre-factory overclocks with what you've got or what you could get. So looking at it, it seems like the memory speed is going to be exactly the same on the updated VBIOS version. If anything, the core clock is going to change from 1620 up to 1640. That seems about the only real kind of difference based on the reviewer's guide. But again, this is all subject to change. Depending on what AMD dictate to Asus, this could all change, and all I know and all I can safely say is that all these figures are going to be, you're going to get better figures. That's all I really want to say. Other than that, you've got a triple fan design. You've got quite a beefy card in general. It takes a single 8-pin. It has a backplate. It's everything that you'd expect from Asus. The thing that I really like is the fact that the rear I/O is completely black. Like a matte black. It looks really, really nice. It has 3 display ports. It has 1 HDMI. There's nothing out of the ordinary. It does have a little bit of RGB lighting up in this area, but nothing over the top. Yes, it's going to be cheaper than their Strix variant, because the Strix variants, I guess, are always the most expensive ones in the stack from Asus. And that creates a big problem as well, because I always find with the Strix cards, and MSI are really guilty of it as well, with their MSI Gaming X cards, of they're so overpriced compared to the MSRP, which is meant to be $279 USD. They're so overpriced that it kind of gives you that decision of, do you go for the high end of that series, so 5600 XT, or do you go for a low end card of, say, a 5700, where you're going to get a little bit extra performance, but obviously the cooler's not going to be as good. So many choices, and really it comes down to you guys and what you specifically want. Because this is a launch day review, and because the figures are kind of here, there, and, well, everywhere, and it's really, really frustrating, I am going to be retesting this card after launch. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. 5600 XT, is it the card for you? Is it going to be perfect for 1080p gaming? We tested a lot of games, so I'm hoping that some of the games we did test with, you guys probably play yourself. So hopefully it gives you a general idea as to kind of what that, you know, entails and what that relates to for your specific needs. Is it going to be the tough gaming for you? I'd love to say, well, you know, maybe it's worth the money, but even then, I haven't got any pricing on this. So maybe you can now see why I was a little bit frustrated at the beginning of this video. There you go, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, you know exactly what to do, and I will see you in the next one, where hopefully, I'm going to say hopefully it's not as frustrating, but the next one's going to be a 5600 XT, so I'm going to be in the same boat. Cheers, guys. See you later. Bye-bye.